All right. Bismillah wa alhamdulillah wa salawat wa salam ala Rasulullah wa alihi wa sahbihi wa min wala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you all, my beloved brothers and sisters, in the path of Futuwwah and excellency and sacred aspects of our roles as men and women. I'm very honored to be with you all from the behalf of the Futuwwah Academy of Sacred Manhood and Sacred Womanhood and the ISIP, the International Students of Islamic Psychology. We want to welcome you all to our second circle of reading. And this is an ongoing halaqah that we will continue, where we try together to establish a common denominator and also a common reference point with regards to what is Futuwwah, how do we define Futuwwah, how do we embody Futuwwah, how do we internalize Futuwwah, how do we conceptualize Futuwwah, and how do we advocate for Futuwwah? What is sacred manhood? What is sacred womanhood? What do we mean when we speak about fitri masculinity and fitri femininity? How is this the antidote towards a lot of the toxicity that has been inflicted on masculinity and femininity, especially in this contemporary era? How can we revive the tradition of Futuwwah in our ways of giving tarbiyah to our youths, our children? Please mute yourself when you join. Brothers and sisters, I will ask you to please mute yourselves when you join. Thank you so much. How can we utilize Futuwwah when it comes to giving tarbiyah to our children, to the boys and girls in schools? How can we develop curriculums that could give a holistic aspect and offer also rites of passages, and how we can help young males and young females and boys and girls and even men and women to come into the righteous path of being a sacred man and a sacred woman? How do these rites of passages look like? And historically, how do they look like back then? How can we learn from other traditions, other cultures, other sacred cultures with regards to these type of phenomena of rites of passages, and how to be an active citizen, a responsible citizen of your society? Why has modernity broken the nucleus of family? And how come that lack of, for instance, male teachers in school and male role models have created a sense within boys that is devaluing their approach towards masculinity, and they're instead bringing in role models from popular culture and other sources that are not healthy? So there is so many questions that hopefully, dear brothers and sisters, we will try to answer through this Futuwwah Study Circle and book club, inshallah. So this is our second session. I will start by reading the chapter that we were supposed to read today. All of you, my beloved brothers and sisters, you have received the schedule for our readings. Also, there is a link of how you can order the book. And also there's a welcoming package for all of you who are joining this study circle and book club. All of the information you can also find in the WhatsApp group description for the halaqah, the Futuwwah Academy Study Circle WhatsApp group. If you check the WhatsApp group descriptions, dear excellent brothers and sisters, you will find all the links to all the resources, and also recording for each session will be uploaded into the Google folder for the halaqah as well, and also to our YouTube channel as well. All right. So for this week, you guys were supposed to read the introduction chapter of the book written by the author, Imam Dawud Walid. And I want to thank you all for great conversations that you had in the WhatsApp group. As I mentioned last week, we will open up the WhatsApp group after each study circle, and we will let it be open for 24 hours, just for you guys to discuss and reflect with regards to the topic that we have addressed during our session. I just want to give some nasihat and advice to all of you that please discuss the content of each chapter, so that we focus our discussions on what we're reading currently. That will make it much more pedagogical, and we will learn, because part of learning is to read and then apply theoretically and through discussions and reflections. So we really recommend all of you, dear brothers and sisters, to discuss the content of each chapter that we are reading for each week. So when we open up the WhatsApp group after the session today, please discuss the introduction chapter. All right. And then you guys can share resources. You can discuss I will also share some questions that I have already prepared for you guys to reflect based upon this chapter today. And just last but not least, have in mind that this whole study circle is about us having the same reference point within the Futuwwah Academy of Sacred Manhood and Sacred Womanhood as a way for us to, when we start to do different projects within the Futuwwah Academy all over the world, then we know what is Futuwwah and how can we define it and how can we work with it, inshallah. So that is just a reminder for all of us, including myself. So thank you so much for joining, dear brothers and sisters. We're very honored to have you all with us. We will now start the reading today. I will ask some of you to read, and then for each sequence that we're reading, we will have some text reflections and discussions as well, inshallah. All right. Feel free to also introduce yourselves in the chat. You can also rename yourself and add which country you come from or which country you're residing. It's always nice to see the international diverse membership and audience and participants that we have within the ISIP and the Futuwwah Academy. An honor to have you all with us, dear brothers and sisters. Brother Shoaib, have you written in the group that people should join now? Yes. All right. Perfect. Perfect. Very good. Sister Fatima Noor, are you with us here? Sister Fatima Noor? Okay. All right. Let me share my screen then, and we will start, inshallah. Just 1 second. All right, dear brothers and sisters, let me share my screen. So this is the introduction chapter, inshallah. So let us now start reading. I can start to read just the quote that we have here. The Islamic tradition calls for a revival of organized training relating to spiritual chivalry and sacred manhood. This is the task of the hour. I would like to ask the questions already now. A question. With regards to the word chivalry, sometimes we translate Futuwwah as chivalry. Obviously, Futuwwah has different meanings, and the Arabic language is very rich. So my question to you guys is, why could the word chivalry be a little bit problematic? Because the word chivalry is actually problematic. I want to know if anybody knows why that word chivalry is and could be problematic. Anybody who would like to say anything
Yeah.
about the question?
May I
So
answer, brother?
yes, Brother Rashid and everybody else, just for the way that we will organize the halaqah, always raise your digital hands, and then I will address everybody. So just
I
to
couldn't find it. I couldn't find it. That's why I couldn't raise it. Sorry.
okay, go ahead, Ustad.
Okay, so chivalry is a very westernized concept. You think of knights of the round table, of a man putting a sword out to help a lady who wants to not step in a puddle. He can put his cape down there and let the lady cross. Whereas in Islam, I think it has a completely different meaning. I don't know exactly how to differentiate the basic meaning of futuwwah in Arabic to English, but this is how I like to say, I like to differentiate it from the Western tradition of what chivalry means. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah khairan, Brother Rashid. We really appreciate it. Yes, you're right. It's a very westernized concept. Also, chivalry comes from the French word chevalier, which means a crusader, actually. A knight rider, as you said, and a crusader. So actually, it's a crusader definition. And obviously, as Muslims, we know what the crusaders did in the Holy Lands. So it's not a good translation, even though I understand that we utilize it. I have utilized it as well, but I've been reminded by others and also through the etymological background of the word chivalry that it is, meaning of it is, in a sense, crusader. Just so you guys know, it's quite interesting to know. This is an interesting fact that a lot of the crusaders, when they came to the Holy Lands and they invaded and they occupied and colonized, actually, I mean, the Crusaders are the same as the Zionists. You know, they were terrorists, they were occupiers, they were colonizers, right? So when they came to the Holy Lands, until they were, driven away by Salahuddin Ayyubi, who, by the way, embodied Futuwwah. And we will speak about Salahuddin Ayyubi throughout our sessions, inshallah, and our readings. Nevertheless, they were actually, some of them, they started to adjust themselves to the local culture in the Holy Lands, to the Islamic cultures, and sometimes even to the Islamic values. Some of them became quite culturally Eastern, you know, and when they went back to Europe, to France or to, you know, Germany or other parts of continental Europe and and UK, for instance, they brought a lot of the ideas and cultural concepts from the Middle East and the Holy Land to Europe. And part of that was the concept of being, you know, chivalrous, right? Now, I don't want to use that word, but just for us to reflect upon it, to have a noble character, to be noble in your ways of approaching your fellow human beings. They actually learned that from the Muslims, And even the concept of Futuwwah with regards to the Futuwwah guilds, some of them brought that back. Please, brothers and sisters, if you guys could just mute yourselves, I would really appreciate it. I will let you guys come and share your thoughts. So no issues with that. So many of them, they actually even brought the concept of the Futuwwah guilds to the European context. Even the Scouts, in many ways, if you look at the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts, right? The whole Scout movement has a lot of Futuwwah in it because it's about being self-sustainable, relying on the things that God has given you in nature, right? There's a lot of notions or rites of passages within the concept of the Scouts, right? A lot of these concepts, they brought back from Middle East, from the Muslims and from the Holy Land. And we can find connections between the Futuwwah guilds and Futuwwah as conceptualization with for instance, the Scouts. So it's good for us to have that in mind. And there's a very interesting book that I recommend you. Please, brothers and sisters, if you guys could mute yourselves, please. There's a very interesting book that I highly recommend you all to read. I think it's called Stealing from the Saracens, if I'm not mistaken. We will share the link to the book on the WhatsApp group, inshallah, where you can see where the Crusaders and also the colonizers stole and took a lot of things, concepts, cultural concepts, notions from the Muslims. So it's quite interesting. So it's a good reminder for us to reflect upon. With that said, the Scouts are an amazing movement, and we as Muslims, we can find the Scouts to be very applicable to our, epistemological and ontological paradigm. So we can definitely internalize and integrate the Scout concepts into Futuwwah as well, inshallah. All right. Let's start reading, dear brothers and sisters. Who would like to start to read? Please go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I still haven't found the raising hand thing. Okay, I found it.
All right.
I may read?
Yeah, you can start to read, inshallah.
Introduction. With the name of Allah, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. I think they mean Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. All praise and thanks belong to Allah, who is the existence by which all that exists manifests through his will. I testify that there is no deity except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has no partner, no equal, nor is there anything which can contravene his speech and nothing that can substitute it. And I testify that our Master Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his slave servant and messenger, the medicine of our hearts and the light of our vision. O Allah, send prayers and peace upon our leader prophet and Master Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and upon the family of our leader Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the enjoiner of good, forbidder of evil, the fountainhead of truth, and the son of the sacred law. Peace be upon you, O Master of leaders, Imam of the people of noble manifestations. To you is the first and the last of majestic humanity, inward and outward honor, and all sacred manhood, loyalty, chivalry, and purity. Surely the best of speech is the book of Allah, the Quran, and the best of guidance is the guidance of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the worst of matters are newly invented matters or bidah in the religion, and every newly invented matter in the religion is a blameworthy innovation. And every blameworthy innovation is misguidance, and every misguidance is in the fire. We seek refuge in Allah from misguidance and from entering the fire. As for what follows, in the present era, there is a crisis of manhood in Western society. In fact, manhood seems to be on the verge of extinction. When I say manhood, I'm not primarily speaking from a physiological standpoint, even though there is a minuscule percentage of the population identifying as other than their confirmed genders at the time of birth. I'm also not positing that manhood is coterminous with brutish behavior toward females, which is in fact not manly. I'm speaking of manhood in terms of positive masculine energy embodied by men who are driven to compete toward excellence, embrace responsibilities, engage in self-restraint, and engage with society courageously.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you so much, Brother Rashid, Ustad Rashid. I would like us to reflect a little bit about this passage with regards to the crisis of manhood, and also with regards to, I guess, in a sense, what you guys think has led to the crisis of manhood. Obviously, Imam Dawud will explain his position, which I agree on, but it will be nice to hear your thoughts. Yes, Ustad Rashid, I will let you come in, inshallah. We'll start with you, Ustad Rashid. I will really recommend all of you, brothers and sisters, to be as active and engaged as Ustad Rashid. May Allah bless him.
Brother, I'm not an Ustad, first of all. I'm just an ordinary person.
You're
You are
elder.
an Ustad compared to me.
You're elder. You're elder. We need to
Okay.
respect our elders. That's part of Futuwwah, by the way. So, Ustad, go ahead. What is your thoughts? What do you think the crisis of manhood in West? And when we say West, by the way, it could even be the East, you know. So generally, what is your thoughts?
Okay. First of all, we find that in Western society, the majority of the families are not like you find in Islam, a man, a woman, and children. You find that there's a lot of single sex parenting. And the majority of the single sex parenting is ladies, females, unmarried ones in particular. So there's boys who are in the house for want of a better manhood, who they can now emulate and follow as an example. They go out into gangs. And from these gangs, they're learning things which are un-Islamic, which are brutish, which are related to knife guns and all kinds of violence, robbing, because we're in the house, they are being pushed down by their mothers who are acting as mothers and fathers. When they go out, they're having this kind of freedom to express their wanton, brutish, abusive, non-Islamic behavior. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah khairan, Ustad Rashid. I agree with you 100%. And I can see that actually. We just had some shootings outside my neighborhood here. I live in Malmo in Sweden. There's a lot of gang activity here. Unfortunately, a lot of the gangs are governed by Muslim boys and males. And may Allah guide them, inshallah. We will not give up on them. We will try to help them, support them to come out from this destructive, communities. But there is, as you say, lack of role models.
Mute, close, unmute, press CMD.
Yeah, thank you so much. And also, I really believe that we can use Futuwwah as a gang intervention. And actually, one of my theses that I wrote is about this, one of my papers. Inshallah, we will discuss that more. Thank you, Ustad Rashid. Let me ask Sister Hadid, would you like to share anything?
Yes, salam alaikum.
Alaykum salam.
I think I have two thoughts. First, from what I see here in Lebanon, I think this idea of gangster, and because we have a lot of ahzab, I don't know what they are called in English, but like a lot of parties, and then I think this is like it's institutionalized in our political and governmental system. So like, for example, any child or any family that cannot raise a child anymore, and they don't go into schools, they direct them go to this party and whatnot, and then they become like everybody. Many people here in Lebanon, they have like guns that are not authorized weapons, and then they drift, they go the left way, I guess.
Mm.
Another point I was thinking about also how do we reach to this stage? I think coming from an education background, I think the way we raise our children, also the fact that I think in the West also, like children leave their homes at the age of 18. I mean, in the East it's and it's still manageable, but of course it's being influenced a lot by the West. Like many young girls and boys, they just want to leave their home and go live independent. And why do you want to do that? You know, stay in your home. You have a parent, you have a shelter, you have everything. You have more time to go like study and like have your own endeavors. But then you have a place to go back and belong to. Like I think also the extended family, it's not there anymore. Like we don't have. Yeah, I think I mixed some things up, but I don't know. These ideas have been coming to my mind altogether.
MashaAllah. Great ideas. Thank you. And by the way, this is a safe space, dear brothers and sisters. So all of your ideas, share them. We're learning from each other. Thank you so much, Sister Hadid. And I agree with you that the political instability in many of our countries have led to the family as a constitution, for instance, has been shattered in a sense, and also because of the frictions in the society that affects also how we raise our children. So definitely, from both a psychological and sociological point of view, that is a very valid point. Also, with regard, please, I really ask you to mute yourself. I really ask you, please. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you. So essentially, also with regards to your second point of why leave your house when you're not equipped to leave your house. There is a valid point there, but I would say that it's a bigger discussion there, Sister Hadid. From my point of view, you're correct. At the same time, we want our children to leave the house, but they need to leave the house knowing a trade, knowing how to provide for the family. I'm speaking particularly about men, right? And that they are trained into being responsible citizens. Unfortunately, in this modern day era, and we will see here when we read this introduction chapter by Imam Dawud, a lot of males and boys are not raised to be responsible men. And Imam Dawud is quite direct on people. He calls them for mama's boys and other terminology. May Allah preserve Imam Dawud. He's an amazing scholar. So essentially, we're not trained to become professionals, or we're not trained to become self-sustainable men that could provide for a family. So part of why some people are also in a sense stuck in their home, in their parents' home, is due to this factor. And also that with professionalization of work and with industrialization came also the disconnection from fitra and from fitri lifestyle. So very few males are today trained, and I include myself, by the way. I feel like I need to train myself as well to go and hunt, to provide food for your family, to understand how agriculture works, to understand how to work with your hands, to have a trade, because today most things have been professionalized and industrialized, or it's either machines that are doing the trade. For instance, the carpets are made by machines, not by hand anymore. Or you need to be academic, and a lot of boys and males are failing to enter academia, which we can see here. So there's a very complex discussion that we need to have with regards to the issue that you're referring to, Sister Hadid, and I really appreciate you mentioning it. I see 3 hands raised, and I want you all to speak, but I will let you guys speak in next sequence, so please keep your hands raised. And I will actually ask you, Sister Hadid, to read for us now the next section, inshallah, Sister Hadid.
Yeah, inshallah. Okay, I'm gonna read from my book, so from not long.
Okay,
I
not
start from.
long ago. Yes.
Okay. Not long ago, young males who acted passively would be challenged to man up. There was a time when more was expected out of a young males in American society. Older men energetically encouraged young males to take on certain manly attributes. We were expected to open doors for females, carry grocery bags for ladies, and not raise our voices around elders. Our football and basketball coaches once motivated us, fire up, ready to go. We went on hunting trips together where we were taught how to use rifles responsibly. Shooting a deer to bring back food for one's family was a source of healthy pride and an example of what men are supposed to do. For others, there were activities such as Club Scouts, Boy Scouts, through which certain survival skills were taught, serving as rites of passage. Many of us who converted to Islam inherited a chiv- chevalier, chival-
Chivalrous.
chivalrous, chivalrous code of honor, similar to the Arabic code of Futuwwah in the era of ignorance before Islam. This America is in which I grew up in, however, has been steadily fading away since the 1990s.
Thank you so much, sister. Thank you so much. Great reading. MashaAllah. May Allah bless you. So essentially here, I would like us to reflect together with regards to when Imam Dawud says, not long ago, young males who acted passively would be changed to man up, quote to quote. So my question is here, what does it mean to act passively for you? Let's start by reflecting upon that. I will let Brother Osama start. Go ahead, Brother Osama.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. Can you repeat the question?
The question, and you can reflect generally as well, by the way. The question is, Imam Dawood says, not long ago, young males who acted passively would be challenged to man up, quote to quote. So what does it mean to act passively for you as a man?
So, for example, if you see an old man crossing the road on his own, as a young man, if you would not go and help him, the society would make fun of you. It would say, "Oh, you're not a man for not helping the old guy." For example, if I see someone struggling to carry the bags and I don't go and help her, that is acting passively. So I think back in the days that was the norm, and if anyone wouldn't do it, they would be looked down upon and cornered by society. But these days it's just normalized because people are extremely hyper individualized and they just want to mind their own business, and that's why no one would go out of their way to help a stranger.
MashaAllah.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
And reflections about the previous point was that I think it's a big epidemic about the crisis of masculinity that and one of the reasons is that people are prioritizing money over everything else. That for example, when I was in high school and I used to go for boxing classes or something, everyone would tell me, this is not going to bring you money, this is not going to help you in your career, this will not help you. Everyone, literally everyone in the family would just ostracize you for wanting to have fitness play a big role in your life,
Yeah.
and then people would encourage going for like 4-hour classes, 4-hour courses to study and get good marks so that brings you money. And then the same mindset carries on to Islamic activities. If you do any Islamic activities, they'll say, oh, this like pray 5 times a day and read Quran, that's enough for you, you don't have to go out of your way to be a Muslim, that's enough for you to go to Jannah. So I think it's a problem with society itself that they prioritize money over everything, and they always want to see a direct return on investment on everything that they put their time, money, and efforts to. So things like fitness, things like chivalry, things like even Islamic activities, people, society in general would not encourage it, and that's one of the main driving factors for this crisis of masculinity that we're seeing in society.
Barakallahu feekum. Barakallahu feekum, Habibna. I agree with you 100%. And I think it's very important that we reflect upon how capitalism and also secularism has compartmentalized spirituality from a holistic lifestyle. So spirituality is something private nowadays. It's not something public. It should be reduced into, maybe 5 prayers a day. It should be for yourself. It shouldn't be seen. It shouldn't be internalized. It shouldn't be integrated into your life, into your daily life, into your other aspects of your life. You have segregated other aspect of worship and ibadah as something that is not linked to spirituality. So we as Muslims know that if you're working with the right intention, and amal is actually ibadah. But with secularization, and as you also speak with materialism and capitalism, This has become instead making money for the sake of the nafs, for the sake of, becoming famous or well-known, or have a extra paragraph on your LinkedIn CV or something like that. So it's the compartmentalization that has led to a crisis on manhood and womanhood, by the way, both, right? And we don't see worship as something holistic, where you actually add socialization as part of spirituality, work as part of spirituality, raising children as part of spirituality, being an active citizen as part of spirituality. Spirituality starts something for yourself. Don't show it publicly, for instance, which is the secular notion, by the way. So thank you, Brother Usama, for sharing this. Let me bring in Sister Kiran. Please go ahead, Sister Kiran.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to take the the literal word, as in passive and active. And I think it's rather unfortunate that in today's day and age, as parents, we see our children literally spending the whole day, sitting just either watching TV rather than encouraging them, like our brother said, to being actively doing something, even if it's just for fitness or whatever, or actively seeking knowledge of any sort. So it reminds me actually of one of the hadiths where towards the end of the time, that a woman will give birth to her servant, and literally it's we can't even say anything to our own children nowadays, and but that's how the current parenting model is looked at. As for, I would like to agree with all my other brothers and sisters who have said so far about how things are, but I would like to add on that what I personally think, especially for those of us who are living in non-Muslim countries, I think what a real issue is that our Muslim youth, especially boys, do not have role models. So even if they do not have a relationship with the masjid, but even if they do, or if they're going on Fridays or doing Islamic school on the weekends, the imams they can't relate to them. And alhamdulillah, I can see it's actually slowly changing with people like yourselves and who are coming forward and now so active, and they can relate to you or look at you guys as role models. So alhamdulillah for that. But a lot of places are still quite cut off where they go to an imam whose first language is Bengali or Urdu or Arabic, and their outlook is so different from their own. And then they end up having actually almost a dual personality. They are somebody else when they go to the masjid, but when they're out in the society, they're completely different. But I hope it will slowly change. But that lack of that role model is really something which I hope will, which can be changed, and hope to help them become a better Muslim.
MashaAllah. Thank you so much, Sister Kiran, for your excellent reflections and remarks. I appreciate it, and I agree with you. And as you say, I think that lack of role models for sure. I think language barrier, I would say, language barrier as well is a key. And we are noticing that in the West in particular. For instance, Sister Zubaydah, could you mute yourself, please? Sister Zubaydah? Sister Zubaydah, thank you. So essentially, I think I'm just speaking from my experience here in Sweden. I'm sure it's the same. I don't know, Sister Kiran, if you live in the UK or wherever in the West. Our experience is that we have, and may Allah bless all of our shuyukh, by the way. This is not to criticize them. All of our shuyukh are doing an amazing job. And, to be a imam or a sheikh in the West, it's a voluntarily khidmah. There is no full-time work, at least in continental Europe. So many of them are actually working with other things on daytime. Some of them are bus drivers or taxi drivers or entrepreneurs. So this is not to criticize. This is just a reflection from a sociological point of view and partially from a psychological point of view, that a lot of youths, they actually tell us that when they go to the masjid, they don't feel home because the one who is doing the khutbah or doing the sermon are speaking in a language that they do not understand, whether it's a language, as you say, it could be Bengali, it could be Urdu, it could be Arabic, it could be Turkish, it could be Farsi, it could be, Albanian, Bosnian, whatever language, right? And this is this connection between the first generation migrants and the second generation and the third generation migrants, which is our youths, right? That are raised in the West, they're born in UK, they're born in Sweden, they're born in Germany, or which country? In Italy, right? But they are not accepted by the Italian society or the Swedish society or the French society. And at the same time, they're not accepted by their native culture as well, or the native country or the parents' country. So they're stuck in the middle. This is what we call third culture kid syndrome from a psychological point of view. Third culture kid syndrome. You're in the middle ground, right? You have your feet in both cultures, but you're not fully accepted, you're not fully grounded. And then this creates a state of dissonance and ambivalence and also ambiguity within you, right? Who am I? Am I Arab or am I Swedish? Am I Bengali or am I British? And nationalism comes in instead of Islam, because Islam as a religion doesn't have national identities in it. We're one. So it's actually a very beautiful way of looking at how we can, as third culture kids, embrace Islam as the solution, because Islam is beyond nationality, right? So they go to the masjid, and there is this friction between the first generation, who is at least grounded in their home culture, their native country, and the third or second generation who is in this third culture kid situation, right? The second thing is that a lot of the sermons and a lot of the preachers and a lot of the beautiful shuyukh, some of them just recently came here, let's say from Egypt or Saudi Arabia, or from Afghanistan or Pakistan, and or Somalia, and their culture, lived experiences, and their reference points and their sermons and the khutbah are in topics and themes that the youths here can't relate to, and they cannot relate to the youths either, right? So there is this disconnection. So for instance, speaking about racism, maybe they have not faced racism. Speaking about intergenerational issues, maybe they have not faced that. Speaking about Islamophobia and the way that we see right now in the, at least Western context, even, I mean, we see it in in India and many other Eastern countries as well. Maybe they haven't faced it because they come from majority Muslim countries. Maybe they don't understand the third culture kid syndrome, right? So the youths, they don't feel seen or heard. Now, it's not the fault of the imams and the shuyukh, honestly. They're doing an amazing job. But what I'm saying, that this makes the youths more reluctant to go to the masajids, right? Because they don't feel home, in a sense. Or maybe they don't feel welcomed, or maybe they indirectly don't understand the concepts because they don't speak the language, right? And that's why what we recommend as part of now us as being part of the Futuwwah Academy, right? We should reflect, how can we learn from a tradition of actually speaking in local languages? Because the Futuwwah manuscripts traditionally, dear beloved brothers and sisters, were written in different languages, not only in Arabic. A lot of them was written in Farsi, in Urdu, in Turkish, Ottoman Turkish, and in other languages as well. So what can we learn from that is to communicate with languages that the local youths and males and females and girls and youths can relate to, right? The same goes when we speak about doing sermons, right? I know for a fact that the shuyukh that I know that are from my generation, I am second generation in Sweden, that are raised in Sweden, and then they went maybe to Egypt, or they went to Yemen, to Tarim, or they went to Syria, or they went to Turkey to study, or to Morocco, and then they came back, and now they are imams. They have, for them, it's much more easier to connect with the youths because they're raised in Sweden, for instance. They understand the Swedish context. They can relate to the youths' issues, that is affecting them psychologically, socially, and spiritually. And they can speak in their language as well. So what they often do in the sermon, in the Friday khutbah, for instance, they do all the things that are fard in Arabic, and the rest they do in Swedish, right? And this is the historical thing, by the way. I mean, if you go to Turkey, the beautiful country of Turkey, all the fard they do in Arabic, and then they do the sermon in Turkish, right? If you go to Afghanistan, maybe they do it in Arabic, the fard, and then in Pashto or Dari or Farsi, right? If you go to Somalia, the same thing. And this is how Islam was spread all over the world, embracing local culture. But because of nationalism and how nationalism has been afflicting on us, we're now instead trying to preserve our national identity rather than our Islamic identity, right? So a very valid point from you, Sister Kiran, which is affecting the youth's connection to male role models and to go to the spiritual places. Jazakallah khairan. I have another question with regards to this part of the reading, which is that Imam Dawud says, there was a time when more was expected out of young males in American society, let's say society generally, all right? Why do we not expect as much today? Why do we not expect as much today? Shifa, would you like to answer?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Yeah, so I actually wanted to give a general remark, not in specification to the question that was just asked. Is it all right?
Could you do both, sister? Could you please also try to respond on the question and do a general remark, please?
Please, could you repeat the question?
The question is, there was a time when when more was expected out of young males in American society, and we will say all societies. Why do we not expect as much today?
Yeah, so I think we can connect what I actually wanted to speak on. So I hail from India, and
Mashallah.
though it's a non-Western society, I can say that there has been a lot of shift with regard to how males are parented versus how females are parented. Like since years ago, like if I have to reflect on the parenting given to my father or my mother, it has been very different, especially with regards to the way deen was inculcated into kids. Yeah. So like, for example, the males were never taught on modesty. They were never taught about the seerah. Whereas the females, they were, it was like compulsory for them to attend the madrasa and, go and learn the Qur'an. So I think that factor has really played a role in the way males are behaving now. And that's why we are expecting less from them, because they don't do anything. And I think one of them have also commented in the chat box as well that, women are playing dual roles, right? Because of which we have no more expectations that we can carry forth with regard to males in the society anymore.
Very interesting remark. Thank you so much, sister, for sharing. And I agree with you. And I think that it's affecting both genders in a sense, That's why we need to connect ourselves back to the sacred roles of being a man and being a woman. But definitely, sister. Thank you for excellent remarks. I will ask also Kafila, would you like to share some thoughts? Kafila?
Yes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Actually, the reason why much is not being expected of men now is because the world has gone feminist, in the sense that more women are now being geared up to take male roles, giving them that illusion that there is nothing a man can be that you cannot be. So far, you are educated and you are ready to put yourself out there. So now the roles of men that they are to take are now being taken over by females. So they have lost, they are no more in the glare, they are no more in the searchlight, they are no more in the limelight. So much is not being expected of them as it used to be in those days, in the past. So that's my own thoughts regarding that question, as why men are not being, why men are not being put out there. The roles have been toppled, have been interchanged, so to say. So men are no more in the glare. They don't expect much of them. Since women are now taking up roles, they are fending for the family, they are paying bills, they are now CEOs, they are COOs, they are CFOs. So what else? What else do we want men to do now? Except even when we are talking about this transgender, gay, lesbianism. So it's like, what is the essence of a man again, when I can as well have my life, live my life according to what I feel I want? So that's what I have to say regarding that question.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah khairan, Sister Kafila. I really resonate with what you're saying. And I think that part of it is that liberal ideologies has distorted the fitri ways of engaging with our roles as men and women. And as you say, Instead of completing each other, we're competing with one another. The society is telling women need to become like men and take men's position, and men need to become like women and take their position, which creates a lot of confusion, right? And we have this dysphoria now here. And it's part of the narrative of breaking down the traditional roles. This is the whole project of modernity, right? And that tradition is something backward, it's something backward, it's not something healthy, it's not something grounded. And now it's about you defining what you are, rather than allowing something higher to define what you are. And of course, as Muslims, we know that Allah defines who we are. So these are really interesting things that you're mentioning, sister. Thank you so much. Let's continue reading, and then Ustad Rashid, I will let you come with your reflections after the next passage, inshallah. So who would like to read, who haven't read yet? Anybody who would like to voluntarily read? Okay, Brother Hafiz, go ahead. Brother Hafiz?
Yeah, can you
Go
hear
ahead,
me,
brother.
brother?
Yeah, we hear you. MashaAllah. Go ahead, brother.
Bismillah. The decrease in manhood among males, which has been discussed as a social epidemic by some, may in fact be on the verge of pandemic proportions. Dr. Leonard Sachs in 2007 book Boys Adrift, the 5 factors driving the growing epidemic of unmotivated boys and underachieving young men, broach this topic from a secular sociological viewpoint. His diagnosis of the crisis argues that the predominance of school environments which lack men as teachers and role models, and over prescribing of psychotropic medications of ADHD, environmental factors which have negatively affected young males' hormone levels, and the devaluing of traditional masculinity have all led to the decline of strong, productive men in Western societies. Though not speaking only about young males, the 2018 work, The Coddling of the American Mind, How Good Intentions and Bad Ideas Are Setting Up a Generation for Failure, elaborates on the issues of safetyism and overprotectionism, arguing that they have led to loss of resiliency among many men of an entire generation. These are all psychosocial factors that have ushered in today's crisis of manhood in the West.
Jazakallah khairan, Brother Hafiz, for reading in an excellent way. This passage is so interesting. And for all of us who are interested in psychology, I mean, ISIP, International Students of Islamic Psychology, we're Islamic psychology movement, right? So it's so interesting when Imam is referring to Dr. Leonard Sachs' books, Boys Adrift, and that he speaks about one of the reasons behind the decrease of manhood being, for instance, medication and overprescription of medication for ADHD, lack of men as teachers and role models, and also environmental factors that gives negative effect on your hormone level as a male. This is very interesting, very interesting. So my question here is, do you agree? And is there other reasons as well for the decline of strong, productive men? And I would say, let's reflect upon what is shared in this passage. It's a very interesting passage, and I will want you guys to share a little bit about your reflections here. We will start with Brother Rashid. Please go ahead, brother.
Okay, just before I actually come to this point, from the previous thing, I agree 100% with Sister Kafila about the equality of bringing up males and females are contributing greatly to this lack of responsibility of demarcation of duties of male and female gender. Number two, I'd just like to also correct what was said by somebody previously about one of the signs of judgment is not the woman giving birth to her servant, but to her mistress. And thirdly, I'd like to say regarding the point of the question that you asked, is that fish Nowadays, you find they're eating all sorts of rubbish in the oceans, including antibiotics. And also, antibiotics are given to cows who are not even ill. And this is contributing, together with the ground being sterilized by modern farming methods, to us humans having a lower chance of increasing our immunity. And in the process, the hormone that is mentioned in this discussion, as from the medical point of view, is greatly contributing to this dysphoria and this lack of gender specialization, together with the modern methods of trans and giving I beg your pardon, giving hormones to little children to try and get them to become male because that's how they feel in their mind they are. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah khairan for these excellent remarks. We appreciate it, Brother Ustad Rashid. I agree with what you're saying. It's a holistic approach that we need to take when we speak about these issues. Sometimes people think, but what has food to do with masculinity and femininity? Why do we need to have ecological sustainability? Because this affects us, and we believe in biological gender as Muslims, because that's how Allah created us, right? So it is an important topic to discuss. Your food, your eating habits, what you eat. Is it processed food? Is it natural food? Is it organic food? Today, organic food is something of a commodity that only the upper class of the society can have access to, which is sad. And because most Muslims, at least in the West, comes from more lower social economical background, they don't have the economical means to buy, organic groceries, for instance. How does that affect our youths? Also, we see, I'm a counselor, so I can see that a lot of the youths, they're eating very bad. A lot of the boys, they drink Red Bull and energy drinks in the age of 10. And this is why it's important for us to even bring in nutritionists and dietitians to speak with the parents, because it's lack of knowledge. The parents are doing a great job, but they're not aware of the effect of, for instance, energy drinks, which has high level of taurine, I think it's called, which is a substance that is not good for the development of the brain of children, right? So we need to do civil education and to connect these issues to one another. This is a holistic thing that we need to do when we speak about bringing males into sacred manhood or bringing females into sacred womanhood. It's not just to say you need to work with your adab and akhlaq. Obviously, you need to do that, but you also need to reflect upon what do we eat? What do we consume? How do we consume? How does that affect us biologically? There is something called epigenetics. I don't know if you guys know about the term epigenetics. Epigenetics is that actually our social ways of living affects our genetic makeup and will be passed on to the next generation. It's very interesting. I recommend you all to read about epigenetics. Barakallahu fikum. Yes, Sister Asfiya, would you like to share anything with regards to this passage?
Yes, brother. So here it mentions about overprotectionism, and there's also so I wanted to talk about this regarding the parents, like how parents today, this generation parents, are so overprotecting their children, especially if I see around here, I'm from in India, Bangalore, and parents are so overprotected about their children, their sons, especially. Like every now and then, everywhere they try to, keep guiding them. Like even guidance is a really good thing, but guiding them in each and everything, like whom to be, friend with, how you have to behave, how you have to, certain things we cannot be dictating everything. Like you dictate them, you don't allow them to grow on themselves. Like they're not allowed to grow seeing the nature or seeing around people. It's not like that. There are some drawbacks dictating the children, making them to overly controlled, and there are certain things like that happening in the society. Recently, read an article about hurried child syndrome, something like that, which is making the parents are expecting a lot from the children from the, from the beginning, like from the child, like, 8 years or 10 years of the child. He's been expected to, act more than what is his age is. So I think all of these factors are making an negative impact on children, and they are actually confused, like what, and nobody is integrating Islam with the bringing
Sister
up
Asfi,
thing. Like, if you're bringing up a child that,
Sister Asfi,
the parda.
Your internet connection cuts down sometimes. Could you share your remarks on the Zoom chat so that we can read it there? Is it possible? Because it was excellent remarks. Well, I
Sure,
didn't
brother.
catch all of it.
Sure, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much. But I got some of the points, and I agree with you 100%. It's important to define. I was actually thinking about it. What is it to be a child in Islam? What is it to be a boy? What is it to be a girl? When do we stop being a boy and we become a man? When do we stop to be a girl and we become a woman? When does that happen? These are very interesting questions that we need to redefine. And obviously, we can go back to our tradition, to define it. But then we need to also look at the modernity and the contemporary society and see, how we can live within this context and yet be grounded in our tradition. So we need to define, when do you stop being a boy and you become a man? Because it's also good to be a boy. You need to be able to be curious and play around, and that's fine. That's beautiful. I love when I hear children play in the masajids, for instance. It's giving, life to the sacred spaces and places. But when do we start to go into that rites of passages? Because we don't have any rites of passages anymore. For instance, historically in the Muslim world, one of the rites of passages was the whole aspect of khitan, that men or boys went through, circumcision, at certain age, you were circumcised, and then that was the first passage towards becoming a man, right? And in some societies, this was done maybe in the age of bulugh, when you came into the age of puberty and when you became a mukallaf or a and you had taklif now. Then you went through this rites of passage. So today, obviously, most of the circumcision are done in the hospitals and very when the children are infants, which is good, by the way. So nothing wrong with that. But maybe we should find other rites of passages then. It's very interesting. Thank you so much, sister. I would like to reflect a little bit about safetism, actually. What is safetism that Imam is referring to? So safetism is defined as a belief system in which safety, which includes emotional safety, has become a sacred value, which means that people become unwilling to make trade-offs demanded by other practical and moral concerns. And this is something that Sister Asfia was referring to, right? So safetism and overprotectionism are reasons of loss of resilience amongst men. So maybe, as Sister Asfia pointed out, we need to allow our boys to be more curious, to actually test their boundaries. Obviously the boundaries should be according to Qur'an and Sunnah. Nevertheless, test their fear. Allow themselves to, through engaging in new activities and new experiences, where you can learn from that by going beyond your safe zone, quote to quote. And these are part of rites of passages, by the way. In many indigenous culture, they used to send out the boys out in the wilderness and let them learn how to survive. Obviously, they were always under surveillance, by the way. They were always elders in the village who were just checking in without them knowing, so that nothing harm will afflict them. Nevertheless, that is to take somebody beyond the safe zone. All right, let's move on and read some more. Who will be interested in reading? Please raise your hands. All right, Ustad Rashid. with your permission, Ustad Rashid, let me just ask one more, because you already read one passage, just for more people to be able to read. I love you for the sake of Allah, Ustad Rashid. We really love your engagement, and mashallah, you have so much great insights and wisdom that we're benefiting from. All right, Sister Iman, please go ahead.
In addition to the general point about the devaluing of traditional masculinity, the gender confusion movement has effectively normalized gender dysphoria in the West. How can one even talk about traditional manhood when once positive aspects of masculinity, such as warriorhood and protectiveness, have been redefined as toxic masculinity? Much less when masculinity has been redefined as in a manner divorced from physiology. A non-hermaphrodite female can say that she feels like a man, and that is supposed to be accepted by all in the public sphere, even when this goes against the overwhelmingly predominant understanding of what defines a man in the history of human civilization. A non-hermaphrodite male, conversely, can state that he feels like a woman. Male roles and expectations are being stripped away in the age of postmodernism. A female or a male can claim to not have a gender at all, defining themselves as agender or gender fluid, conception in which the person can supposedly morph into a gender shapeshifter, similarly to Thetis in the Greek myth Iliad, who changed from a lady into a sea nymph. The sexual and gender confusion movements, which have incessantly promulgated their messages in pop culture and the activism world, have made their way into public school classrooms of young folk who have not even reached the age of puberty, lacking the cognitive capacities to process these matters with critical thinking skills.
Jazakallah khairan, Sister Iman, for reading in such an excellent way. So this is a very interesting passage here, right? So for instance, Imam is referring that warriorhood and protectiveness is seen today as toxic masculinity. So my question to you all is, how can we reclaim these positive aspects of masculinity once more and counteract some ideologies that connect these Futuwwah traits with toxicity? Because these are some of the traits of Futuwwah, of being a noble person, having a noble character, right? So anybody who would like to reflect upon that? All right, Ustad Rashid, please go ahead. If you can just reflect upon the question, please.
Yeah, well, first of all, nowadays, every television program you look at, they have make sure that there is either a homosexual male or a female who is attracted to somebody of her own gender. And whether it's a news, a program of a soap, a movie, or whether it's even a program of quizzes, absolutely everywhere, it has been infused with this understanding of the trans and the homosexual and the bisexual and the female attracted to the female. And therefore, I feel that it's very, very difficult for us. And we have to, therefore, as parents, and I'm a grandparent, as parents, we have to be very careful what we allow our children to view, because what may appear to be on the surface something very, very simple and okay and natural and normal, actually there's a hidden message in there telling you that homosexuality is okay. It's okay for husbands to be husbands of husbands and wives to be wives of wives. Jazakallah khairan.
Jazakallah khairan. So essentially, as we have understood today, popular culture has had an agenda. It's even, if you look at the Zionist agenda, actually we know today that Hollywood was established by Zionists and imperialists to shape the minds of the American audience and now international, obviously, to accept certain wars, certain so-called interventions. And we know through research how Hollywood shapes minds when it comes to war. Before each and every war, they produce a movie which is financed by the by the military-industrial complex, which is highly tied to Zionist agendas and colonial agendas. And this is the same thing as Ustad Rashid mentioned with regards to, gender, roles, when it comes to sexual identity, also when it comes to other issues as well. I would like us to discuss some aspect of what is the solutions as well, because it's important to discuss the symptom of why we have certain issues in the world today, but what would be the solution, right? So going back to my question now, I would like you guys to reflect upon it. How do we reclaim positive aspect of masculinity once more? Which is Futuwwah, right? To be a warrior is Futuwwah. What do we mean? What is warriorhood according to the Futuwwah tradition? We take the example of Sayyidina Ali, radiallahu anhu, and he being the perfect example of a spiritual warrior, that he does the jihad al-nafs, and at the same time he protects his ummah, right? And you know the story of when the warrior wanted to attack Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. And actually Rumi, rahimahullah, in the Masnavi, he refers to this a hadith of this scenario, right? And where this warrior spat in the face, in the blessed face of Sayyidina Ali, right? Radiallahu anhu, right? And what does Sayyidina Ali do? Sayyidina Ali, he is taught by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is the greatest spiritual warrior of everyone who ever walked on earth. So he does jihad al-nafs first. He asks Allah, am I going to hit this warrior because he insulted me? Or am I doing it for the sake of you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And then he came to the conclusion with his inner dialogue and the dialogue that he had, speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is something that he might do because of his nafs, that he felt dishonored, and that's not good. So he didn't give him the final blow, and the warrior was so astonished that he actually later, as the story tells, became a Muslim. So what can we learn by warriorhood? What is warriorhood? Is it to be like Rambo from these Hollywood movies that Ustad Rashid is referring to, which is almost like a savage, a person who is an alpha male who just kills everybody, Or is it to be like Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, or like the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon all of them, and our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So yes, I would like you guys to reflect, how can we reclaim these attributes, starting with you, Sister Hadid. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So what I thought of at the beginning is we need more awareness, like everywhere. Like we need to teach our imams in the mosque, our teachers, our parents, like relearn, unlearn what we have learned and relearn these concepts in our tradition. And another point also, to have this balance, like we don't want Rambo examples, and also, but we don't want also a lot of soft people. Like we need people in the middle who can convey both, to be emotional when it's needed, but also to be strict when it's needed. So to have this balance in all of the actions that that they take the manhood.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. I agree with you, sister. MashaAllah. Thank you for your excellent inputs. Brother Usama, I want you to reflect, and I want to add another question while you reflect on the former question. So today we see, according to this passage, that feelings are explaining our gender identity rather than physiology. So explain why it has become like this in our contemporary era. If you can add that into your reflection, Brother Usama, please go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's ideology, because they're, as I said before, they're trying to make society extremely atomized so that it's easier to control people. In the end of the day, it's all about controlling people. So when they separate the man from the woman, and then they're able to separate the children from the parents, they can just brainwash and shape children any way they want. And that's producing the type of robotic kids that we see today these days in schools and colleges, that they're all dressing the same, they're talking the same, their gestures are the same, so they're all Xerox copies of one another, and they're all a product of this modern machine that has been created, and gender ideology is just a small part of this whole big machinery. That's why they're trying to do it. It's all, end of the day, it's about control. And one of the things that helps people resist against this type of control, it is faith. whether it is Islam or other traditional forms of ways of lives that encourage things like Futuwwah and chivalry. So that's why they also try to demonize these concepts through movies. Like if you see in most pop cultures, in most TV shows, they'll show the father is a weak guy who makes stupid jokes and he's the joker of the show. So that's how they portray the father role model. So it's a trend that we unfortunately we're seeing all everywhere in different forms. And all of this it's because of the way secular modernity has evolved. And Sheikh Abdul Hakim Murazi speaks about this. He says that the best way to go to counteract this is by going back to primordial ways of life, and one of the ways of doing that is by encouraging sunnah practices amongst people. And these sunnah practices also encourage futuwwah, and they also encourage other things, because reviving masculinity, it's not just about one thing. It's not just about reviving masculinity or reviving one certain aspect. It's a bigger fight, because that's just one thing that we have lost. There's many other things that we're losing because of secular liberal modernity. So it's a big fight, and this is a very crucial part of the bigger fight that we have to push back against this secular modernity, if that makes sense. I think I was just rambling after a certain point.
No, mashallah. It was great remarks. You never say anything else but greatness. And so, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, I really agree with what Brother Usama says. And brothers and sisters, I encourage more people to raise their hands, by the way. Ustad Rashid, with your permission, I will let some more people come, and then I will let you also share, inshallah. I just want more voices to be heard, because this is a space for us to learn from one another. Nobody here is without knowledge. Everybody here has knowledge. Everybody here has experience, and lived experience is knowledge. So please feel free to share. This is a safe space. We're going to do this journey together, right? Last week we had 80 people. Today half came, 40. Please, next week, I don't want it to be 20, because this is what we see always when we start halaqas. First 2 weeks, a lot of excitement, then people stop to come. I want you guys to come every week. This is important. I'm going to be here every week as much as possible. So please join me and join us in this journey. And hopefully the other 40 will come again. Inshallah, we will highlight that, inshallah. So I want us to reflect now solutions, all right? Because we're speaking about how popular culture and school curricula is normalizing gender confusion and dismantling all aspects of sacred masculinity and sacred femininity. So how can we counter that? How can we counter that? Because now we know the issue, we know the problem, we know its etiology, as they say in medical terms, right? What is the solution? Sister Sophia, would you like to answer that question, please?
Sorry. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Yes, my suggestion would be to, and this is the stuff that I'm trying to do, is to create an alternative curriculum and promote that, make it more accessible for parents, and advertise it, promote it in a way that they can understand. But we definitely need to have a holistic curriculum, an alternative curriculum to what the secular states all over the world, that is just the global curriculum that we have. I mean, the maths that is taught, the science that is taught, the English or whatever language you're taught, it's all the same. Where you might come from different countries, but it's all the same. It's promoting the capitalist ideology, the secularist ideology, and we need to decolonize and desecularize the curriculum, and we have to create an alternative. We can talk about this, and we can talk about this and carry on talking about it, but at the end of the day, you have to act. And yeah, I mean, that's my view.
That's amazing, Sister Sophia. Thank you so much for your works. And I
want to say something.
Who is the one? Please raise your digital hands, please, so I know who wanted to say something. But before the person who wanted to say something, raise your digital hand, because I don't know who it is. Thank you. So you're 100% right, Sister Sophia. And that's why this halaqa will be action-oriented halaqa, dear brothers and sisters. I just want to make you guys, I just want to share that with you guys, that this will be an action-oriented halaqa, in the sense that when we have ideas, We will start by discussing the problem, and when we have defined the problem, we will then discuss the solution, but it's not going to just be discussion. We want to implement the solution. So in the Futuwwah Academy of Sacred Manhood and Sacred Womanhood, we want to have a curriculum group. So we need Sister Sophia there, all right? We need others there so that we can create curriculums. Because we're doing this halaqah only for us to have the same reference points and understanding what is Futuwwah. But it will lead to action points and action items. We believe in implementation. This is very important. So I highly encourage all of you, and I will ask my beloved colleague, and I want to thank Brother Shoaib, Sister Fatima, Sister Dania for doing an amazing work, them to highlight this in the WhatsApp group and ask you guys to join. Another thing we need to do, we need to create alternative nasheeds. We need to create alternative movies that are shaping our youths in a positive way, according to Qur'an and Sunnah. We need to enter the popular culture and make our tradition popular without watering it down. That's the key. Make it popular without watering it down. And these are some of the action items that we can speak about. All right, there's a lot of raised hand. I'm going to prioritize those who have not spoken yet. So, and I want us to read a little bit more. I'm mindful of the time. We're not going to go over time. So we have 10 minutes left. So we're not going to read all of the passages in this chapter. I assume that all of you are reading the chapter in your way. So when we do the readings in class, in session, we're going to read outskirts and do text reflection, because text reflection is very important in book clubs and halaqas as a way for us to learn from each other's interpretation of the text, because different people might see different things in a text. That's why I emphasize on joint text reflections. That's why we emphasize on that, right? So we're going to read a little bit more, but before that, I will add Sister Mahmouda and your thoughts. Please go ahead, Sister Mahmouda.
Just to add what you said about, what we can do is the answers to the questions raised here. The same thing what Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu said was jihad and nafs. So we have to again go and make a jihad with our own nafs rather than, correcting others. We have to correct ourselves first. And then we have to think about how can we protect the ummah now. For jihad and nafs, there are a lot of things available, like, tazkiyatun nafs, how to purify your soul, and all those stuff are available Islamically, alhamdulillah. So, and then we have to also create awareness regarding this. We need, and definitely what other brothers and sisters said, that learn the things that were there in our traditions, and unlearn which we are learning from other things. This is what I could reflect upon.
Jazakallah khairan, Sister Mahmouda, for your excellent remark. And as you said, learn and unlearn. Unlearn and learn, right? And that's part of what Sister Sophia said. Decolonization is to unlearn and then you learn, very important. Thank you so much. I saw that Dr. Bibijan, your hands were raised, but inshallah, we will come back to you, and also Sister Elena. Let's read the last passage, all right? Can I ask somebody to read who haven't read before? Anybody who feel that they can do that? All right, Khatam, please go ahead if you could read. I want you to read from Muslims who live in the West.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Muslims who live in the West are influenced by the socio-political trends surrounding them. The issues of seemingly unmotivated young males and unproductive 20 and even 30-something-year-old man-children are phenomena that are on the rise in the United States, Canada, and in the United Kingdom. Young ladies are far outpacing young men academically, including in rates of graduation from colleges and universities. In many local and national youth groups and college organizations like Muslim Students Associations or MSAs, sisters usually outnumber brothers, in some cases grossly outnumbering them. Sisters looking to get married are also having extreme difficulty finding husbands, not only because some brothers are marrying outside of the Muslim community, but also due to a widespread lack of interest in taking on the responsibility of getting married among Muslim men. Many of these mama's boys who suffer from an extended psychosocial adolescence are quite comfortable with not seriously planning to take on the responsibility of maintaining families. Some of them are simply too glued to their Xboxes for such considerations.
Thank you so much, sister. MashaAllah. Thank you for reading, Sister Khatam, in an excellent way. You're from the UK, sister?
No, Singapore.
Singapore, MashaAllah. Most welcome, sister. So maybe I'll start with you or anybody else. This is a really interesting passage in the introduction chapter. So many important. This will be our final reading for today, by the way. I'm mindful of the time, and we will not go more than, we will never go over time because I'm mindful of all of your precious time, dear brothers and sisters. So there's a lot of things here. Young women are outpacing young men academically, including in rates of graduation from colleges and universities. Why? Why is this? What is your thoughts about this? Anybody would like to share? And for all of those who raised your hands before, please raise them again. We would love to hear you. It was some sister from Malaysia. We had Dr. Bibijan from Singapore. We'll start with you, Asfia. And Brother Usama, I know you raised your hand, and Ustad Rashid, please raise your hands because now we're going to have an interesting discussion. This will be the final reading of today. So I'm going to end sharing my screen. So let's start with who? Asfia, would you like to share? Young women are outpacing young men, including in rates of graduation. How come?
Yes, brother.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Sister Asfia.
Yes, brother. So what I feel nowadays, the education system, especially, I don't know how it's been, made. It's all like, these children are misguided, especially in India. If I talk about Indian education system, it's all misguided, like, the history and other things are very much misleading. And another thing about the girls outnumbering the boys, I feel again it goes back to the parents, where these parents nowadays, they have their own businesses and they have their own, the fathers are the tycoons, and these boys, what they feel is like, what is the need of getting educated? We have so much of, properties, or we have a lot of ancestral things, and they don't feel the importance, and they don't feel the need for getting educated. Maybe they feel, at a certain point of my life, when I need money and everything, I have it all. Like, my father has earned it all, and I and my next 3 to 4 generations can sit and have it nicely. So maybe this mindset, and parents also sometimes they don't encourage children. Like, they'll be like, okay, what if he doesn't, get a proper education? And also to get this fact to your notice, that there are so many people who actually buy the degrees. They actually buy the degrees. So I don't think, children are really, caring about getting educated. The fathers may buy their degrees, and, they have their own businesses. And these things, I think, is influencing the children more. And of course, the social media, the wrong use of social media, the wrong platforms, all these things have influenced the boys a lot, I believe.
Jazakallah khairan, sister. Great remarks. I would like to hear more voices, and just because of lack of time, if you guys could keep it short so that we can have more voices. Excellent remarks, Sister Asfia. I really appreciate it, and I agree with you. Let's bring in Habib. What is your thoughts? Habib? Habib?
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah. Feel free to answer the question with regards to the situation of women outpacing men in education.
We see this situation in India. I'm from India, where what happens after the completion of undergraduate course, the girls waiting for their marriage, they get into the masters and they complete that. And for a boy, the groom, if he has to look for a job, then 2 years he's busy in trying to settle down, and 2 years career is nothing from a corporate point of view. And everybody is looking for a 24-year girl, and they want a settled person who is also 26-year-old or 27-year-old. And for a 4 or 5 years career, and if somebody is working in India, he may not be very well off financially. So what happens? They get into traps of people, somebody who is there in Australia, UK, the person is getting married there, and he comes, and for the parents, you can say, to make parents happy, they get married, and the one here. So this whole thing is because girls have nothing to do, they keep studying, and parents also feel that they will be financially secure later. So that is the phenomena we see, and it is quite common that we are not finding equally qualified grooms for the girls. Because what happens is, if somebody is a master's, they say, okay, we will not marry somebody who is not master's. And so they raise the bar of their qualification criteria. And that's what leads to they remain unmarried. So, and this is a very dangerous phenomenon.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. We appreciate it. Actually, it's quite interesting. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Bibi Jan, my beloved mother. An honor to have you with us. So essentially, this is not according to our tradition either. If we take the Prophet ﷺ, mashallah, he's the most wisest person who ever walked on earth. And back then people didn't have any academical merits. The Prophet ﷺ, he couldn't write, he couldn't read. So essentially, our way of putting status on certain things in order to be a good spouse or a match to your daughter or son is not according to our tradition. That is one. And the second thing that is important to reflect upon is that we need both educated men and women. Education is important. We need alim and alimas. But the problem is that education today has become something feminine. It's something that is not masculine anymore because of popular culture, and also due to liberal ideologies, they almost see it as a success that there are less men who are educated because now more women are educated. Our approach should be that both men and women should be educated. There's nothing wrong to be educated, whether you're a man or a woman. And knowledge inquiry is a duty, is a virtue for both men and women, right? So there are a lot of liberal ideologies that are distorting and not allowing indirectly boys to thrive in the school education system, And obviously, if you want to be a breadwinner and study at the same time, that might be quite difficult, So you need to reflect upon all these sociological and psychological reasons why we see this outpacing, right? And that we don't see that as something positive as Muslims, because they are cheating it in the West sometimes, because of the liberal ideologies, ways of looking at it, right? So let's also get some reflections from Shoaib. Go ahead, Shoaib.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Go ahead, brother Shoaib.
I'm the point which Sister Asfia is talking about, which is not 100% true. I think because there are people who are doing such a wrong thing like bike digging and those that she talk about boys and their upbringing. I'm not 100% agree with that because it depends on the psychology and societal condition of that area or region. So it depends on a different region. For example, in India, most of the people are of middle class, so they find their way in such way they will get in such a way that they will get ease of it, any work or something like that. So I'm not 100% agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it's okay to have ikhtilaf, by the way, in this space. So we as Futuwwah ambassadors, we embrace adab al-ikhtilaf, the ways of handling differences of opinions. So perfectly fine to have a disagreement, and we will learn from each other, inshallah. Thank you so much, Brother Shoaib, for your remarks. Sister Elena, would you like to share anything?
Yeah, I'm teaching in Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Walaikum salam, sister.
I'm teaching in an Islamic school. It's co-ed, but I think it's important to have more male teachers as well, because for subjects like PE, we need male teachers to teach because the boys need space and more engaged activities, and girls can play like simple games like skipping or badminton or like that. One more, in a world where parents, they travel quite a lot to their workspace, and children tend to stay at school more time and transit places. They spend more time with the caregivers and teachers more than the parents. So I think in this case, teachers have also need to be facilitators instead of just a center of attention, and to hear more of their ideas, of the children's ideas. What we are doing also is during Jum'ah time, we have special education for the girls where they can learn about cooking, about, domestic skills that are soft skills that are quite lack nowadays. One phenomenon in Malaysia, it is called DINK, where I don't know, 20-something year olds, they are coming to the idea of double income, no kids. Although they are aware of getting married, they don't want to have kids because of there's lack of jobs where they have to create their own jobs. And so we have to have more economic strength in the society as well. So that's my opinion.
MashaAllah. Thank you so much for sharing your experience from your workplace and also from Malaysia. Very, very beneficial. Thank you so much. Hopefully, Sister Alina, we can have you with us as part of our curriculum team within Futuwwah Academy, because we would love to learn from your experience, inshallah. So we are over time now. So last two remarks I will give very briefly to Brother Usama and Brother Rashid, and then we will wrap up, inshallah, very briefly. So very briefly, Brother Usama.
Yes, Sheikh. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, and it's a controversial opinion that I have. Many people disagree with it, but I think the education system in itself, it is matriarchal, and it rewards femininity and it discourages masculinity.
I don't think that might be that needs to be controversial, brother. In this safe space, and I'm really telling you guys, this is a safe space. Please share your thoughts and we will learn from it. And if somebody has another opinion, then feel free to share that as well. So Brother Usama is saying that the curriculum nowadays is tailored for, as I understand, from a feminine point of view rather than a masculine. Is that what you're saying, Brother Usama? It seems like Brother Usama's microphone got shut down or something. So yes, interesting discussions to have. I would say for me, it's not as easy. It's not black and white. I do believe that secular ideologies and liberal ideologies has definitely created some aspect of notions that has not been a benefit of sacred roles, neither for men and women. And in that sense, and the whole aspect of liberalism and feminism and secularism is to change sacred roles, and complementarity becomes competition. And in that sense, they might salute the fact that male or men are failing today, for instance, right? Because this is something that will benefit that type of way of looking at it. Or if men are failing, they are failing in the sacred roles, but they are allowed to have other roles that are perhaps creating dysphoria and confusion amongst both men and women. So there is a lot of complex things, but I definitely think that our curriculums, at least in the West, is tailored to ideologies, which is not fitri, which is not according to sacred roles, and that we as Muslims, we have the duty to come with this solution. And this brings the toxicity that is afflicted on masculinity and femininity, because when the boys are not thriving in school, then they start to hang out on the streets, and they get their education on the streets, and they start to go into destructive group patterns, which is, for instance, the street gangs. This is also historically the case. The Futuwwah guilds were established to break street gangs in the Ottoman Empire. Did you guys know that? A lot of the vagabonds, they came into the Futuwwahs because during certain eras of the Seljuk Empire, prior to the Ottoman Empire, the society was crumbling down, cracking down, and there was not a proper education system the way that we see today in the schools, which is affecting, the boys and the girls. And in that sense, the Futuwwah came as a way to bring this so-called vagabonds into a holistic education system, and maybe that is the solution as well. All right, Ustad Rashid, very briefly, and then Sister Sophia, I will bring you in very briefly as well.
I'd just like to add a few points. And that
just one point, Ustad Rashid, because we need to read the end. So 1 point, please.
Very difficult. Just 1 minute, okay? 3 points, 1 minute. 60 seconds. Islamic youth clubs at mosques, itikaf overnight stays at masajid, Islamic nasheed promotion, like you suggested, for against pop songs on the other hand, scout camps for youth, male and female, and rename, by the way, the country that we are from, when just for the sake of the future. When I've written next to my name, Rashid Mutala, UK. If everybody does that, then we know who is from where, and you don't have to ask them all the time and guess that. Jazakallah khair.
MashaAllah. Amazing suggestions, Ustad Rashid. We're very honored to have you with us. Please forgive me for any shortcomings. Sister Sophia, you didn't, you put your hand down. Would you like to add anything?
Yes, I've put it in a comment anyway. Just one point, that boys and men usually like to learn kinesthetically. They're more practically minded. And the curriculum is more designed sort of academically, which is more suitable for women. So that in itself handicaps. This is sort of very sort of in support of the previous speaker before, Mr. Rashid Mutala, what he was saying. So it's just, in support of that. So,
MashaAllah. Great reflections. And it's true in many ways that we need to have more like application of theory in school, a pedagogy that works with all of your senses. So for instance, I see that we have Sister Annalisa here. She's one of our project managers for ISIP's Italian chapter. We were speaking about the Montessori pedagogy and how you can Islamicize that. And I know that some of our brothers and sisters in Malaysia have created the Rumi Montessori school, which is an amazing school that I visited earlier on this summer. And essentially, how can you use holistic pedagogy, practical pedagogy, because that suits a lot of the boys and girls. So for instance, why do we give so much ADHD diagnosis to boys? I noticed that when you allow the boys to first do grappling and then do mathematics, they learn mathematics much more because they're externalizing all this energy that they don't externalize, and then they can focus better by doing the grappling first. And historically, we used to work with our jasad, we used to work with our body, so we externalize a lot of the energy. But today we're just sitting in front of computers, right? We're sitting in front of, digital devices. So the boys are not allowed to externalize their energy. So that's why we can see lack of concentration. So there is a lot of things that we can reflect upon when it comes to holistic education systems. All right, Brother Shuaib, and I know Brother Habib, you also raised your hand. So very brief remarks from both of you. Brother Shuaib, very brief, please.
We have seen that our fiqh was compiled by most by men fuqaha. So we see a lot of issue in women related issue. So we have to look from the state of mind of both men and women, so that we can arrange or compile a kind of new laws which derived from Qur'an and Sunnah. So we have to look from the state mind of men and women, their psychological need, their societal position. So we need to look upon everything.
MashaAllah. I agree with you 100%, Brother Shoaib. Thank you for those excellent remarks. All right, dear brothers and sisters, please forgive me for going over time. You guys have so many excellent inputs, insights, and remarks, and I really want everybody to be heard and listened to, because we learn from each other. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless your presence and bless our presence. Allow our presence to be something that will be of khair for the ummah and for all of our local communities. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to revive the Futuwwah tradition as an antidote towards a lot of the diseases that are afflicting masculinity and femininity in this contemporary era. We will meet next Sunday at 7:30 a.m. GMT. And then I would like you guys to read, according to the schedule, the chapter, What is Futuwwah? from page 29 to page 39. So the chapter, what is Futuwwah, from page 29 to page 39. You find all the information in the WhatsApp group description. Feel free to invite other brothers and sisters who will be interested to join. You can just share the WhatsApp group link to them, and they're more than welcome to join. We're going to start the discussion in the WhatsApp group now, so we're not going to end here. So within 5 to 10 minutes, we're going to open up the WhatsApp group for discussions, and I'm going to share some of the questions that I've been asking today for you guys to reflect upon. Please discuss according to the chapter that we read today jointly, inshallah. So this is just the final remarks. Sister Romesa, yes, the recording will always be shared in the Google folder of the halaqah, and we will soon upload them on ISIP's YouTube channel as well. So within a day, you will see the recording there. And I would really love that you guys all join every week, because we had 85 people joining last week, if I'm not mistaken. Today we were 40. We don't want to go into 20. We are a joint movement, and we're doing this to learn together from sacred knowledge. And hopefully more people will join. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for your amazing reading. Thank you so much for all of your excellent remarks. I want to thank Brother Shuaib, Sister Fatima, Sister Dania, who are all engaged in Futuwwah Academy of Sacred Manhood and Sacred Womanhood, for your excellent khidmah. May Allah bless and accept it from you, inshaAllah ta'ala. I want to thank all of you who read and who came with amazing reflections today. I learned by listening to all of you. I hope you guys learned from each other as well. Please forgive me for any shortcomings if I have organized or read or said anything wrong. Rest assured that I have a lot of errors in my character. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that. And if anything good came from me and from us, it's all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Please extend my greetings to you all, and let's continue the discussions on WhatsApp, and let's start to work on the curriculum and being action-oriented as well. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.